What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another episode of Just Jets, episode number 251. What is going on? I'm going to be hanging out with you today. We'll get into your voicemails, but what I wanted to discuss here in the open was this alleged plan that the New York Jets have in the NFL draft. So naturally, the Jets were officially eliminated this past week. Can't say that we're surprised. The Jets were 3-9 going into their game against the Miami Dolphins. With that loss, they fall to 3-10. It was prolonging the inevitable, right? You knew it was coming for 4 weeks, let's say, for however long, or maybe even longer, depending on when you were out on this team. Moral of the story, GM's gone, coach is gone. There's rumors about Aaron Rodgers potentially being gone. Mass change is coming to the New York Jets this offseason as they will conduct a GM and head coaching search. Now, this week, Ian Rappaport, who covers the NFL for NFL Network, does a really good job, by the way, normally does a great job. I have nothing against Ian Rappaport. He had this story, and he was quoted saying that the Jets could and likely will draft a quarterback in the first round. Okay. I don't have any issue with that logic, right? If the Jets go into this, my keyword being if the Jets go into it, they like a quarterback. He's there wherever they're picking. They select quarterback. Okay, right? Understood. Got that. The problem that I have and why I say this makes no sense, the alleged plan that the Jets have here, which is they're taking a first round quarterback, is because we have no idea who the GM or the head coach is going to be yet. How do you know that? How do you know that the Jets are going to take, or likely rather, to take a quarterback in the first round when the guy who's going to be making that decision hasn't been hired yet? Unless it's Woody Johnson running the show, or Brick Johnson, better yet, running the show. And yeah, that's probably what most fans think, right? And I've been honest with my thoughts on Woody Johnson and Brick Johnson and ownership for this team. But, I mean, how can we possibly say, oh, Jets could and likely will draft a quarterback? The regime isn't here. We have no idea who the GM is going to be, or even the coach. Don't you think it's more likely that the people that they're going to interview are going to, each one may present a different scenario or their own way of thinking, hey, this is the problem that the Jets have, or this is what the roster is, or whatever. Here's how I would go, or here's how I would approach getting the Jets on track. And like I said, it very well could eventually get to the point of them taking a quarterback in the first round, but the coach and the GM haven't been hired yet. It's all speculation is the point. It's not you can't say the Jets could and likely will draft a quarterback. We have no idea. How could you possibly know? Unless he knows who the GM and the coach is going to be, but nothing has happened yet with the 33rd team. There's still 4 games left in the season. It would be different if the Jets still had Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, and Woody Johnson has already said, like, hey, I believe in those guys and they're coming back. And not that would have happened in a year where they're 3-10 at this point. But if you picked any other team in the league that still will have next year their GM and their head coach being the same, it's significantly more believable to go, okay, they must have got some information. They like this quarterback class. They like this guy in particular. Fine. That's at least a little bit logical. But again, I'm going to reiterate, and I know I probably sound like a broken record, and I apologize for that, but when I read this report, I go, how the hell could we possibly know that? The people making the decision and running the team's not here yet. The GM hasn't been hired. They haven't hired a new coach. What do you mean they're gonna draft a quarterback in the first round? We don't know where they're going to pick. There's 4 games to go. They can get as high as like the number 2 pick in the draft. I mean, sure, there's probably a pass to the number 1 pick. A lot has to break right. The Giants across town, I don't think they're winning another game the rest of this year. They look absolutely dreadful and checked out. It is the NFL. Weird things happen. The Jets have a matchup this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars that has a ton of draft implications. The Jaguars just won this past week. The Jets lost, but with the Jags win, it pushed the Jets down from 6th to 7th in the draft. If the Jags beat the Jets, then they would get moved further down the board and the Jets would rise up clearly. Or the other way around, if the Jets win, which they're favorites this week, then that makes them fall down the draft board. And I'm not doing the whole, oh, I'm rooting for the win or I'm rooting for the loss. I don't care what side of the aisle you fall in on that. Honestly, I really don't. I don't have it in me to fight with people or to be upset one way or the other about where the Jets are going to pick. If you hire the right guy and you hire the right coach, it shouldn't matter. Find talent, find a way to figure it out. But they have no idea where the Jets are picking. What if they win 2 more games and they end up picking like 10th or something like that? Is a quarterback going to be there for them at 10 that they like? I know like Jalen Milroe's essentially the quarterback 3 right now. Most likely scenario for most people, and again, it's way, way early. There's still 5 months really until the draft. You have 5 months into the NFL draft. But as of now, with the Raiders and the Giants towards the top of the draft, in most likely scenario, again, currently, is that Shador and Cam Ward, the 2 top quarterbacks, consensus top quarterbacks right now, are the ones who would go off the board first. And then Jalen Milroe maybe rises, but I don't know if he's there enough where you're like, oh yeah, he's a no doubt about it, top 10 pick or top 5 pick, depending on where the Jets pick. What about Drew Allar from Penn State? He had a great game against Oregon. He's a guy that a lot of people like. I've seen him mocked in the 2nd round. I've seen him mocked in the 4th round. He could, if he plays well, in the playoff, maybe he rises even more. Like, there's a lot of things that could happen before now in the draft. I just don't know how you can go, yeah, the Jets they're drafting a quarterback in the 1st round. You can make the case for them to. You can make the case for them to go defensive line. You can make the case for them to go offensive line if Morgan Moses doesn't come back. You can make the case for receiver. You can make the case for corner. You can make the case that they need help at safety. I wouldn't take a safety that high, but like there's so many options for the Jets to go in this route to be that definitive, likely to draft a quarterback. If you said this in March after they make the decisions on the hire and they go through the free agency, yeah, okay. I believe it. But now in December 10th, recording this, December 11th, by the time you're listening to this, what the hell are you talking about? We don't even know where they're picking yet. Sorry to get so fired up about it, but I read this report and I go like, how is no one talking about that? We have no idea who the GM is. What do you mean? Who's Ian Rappaport getting that information from? Phil Savage? Does Phil Savage think he's getting the job and that he's going to draft the quarterback in the 1st round? I don't know. Anyway, that one was just a little bit nutty. So I wanted to discuss it to start the show. I want to get into your voicemails too. A lot of calls this week to go through, well, a bunch of different things. Joe from Long Island is going to start us off. He wants to talk about this defense. And after another poor performance, let's hear it.
Hey, Matt, Joe from Long Island here. That was terrible. But everybody's blaming Rodgers for this year and screaming about how he sucks and he doesn't have it anymore and they don't want it back and all this stuff. But the most consistent problem all year, and it was again today, was the defense sucks. They can't get a stop when they need to. The defensive line cannot get pressure with 4. I said it after week 1. I was like, oh, this team sucks. The defense is terrible. They're not going to do anything this year. And turns out I was right. Another blown lead late in the game, and then they just get washed over in overtime. It's ridiculous. But, yeah, I actually wouldn't mind seeing Rodgers back again next year. I know everybody hates that, but who are you going to have? Tyrod? I don't know, man.
It'd be cheaper.
The defense sucks. That needs to be fixed. We need some D linemen and a couple safeties. But that's it. This sucks. 3-10. I can't believe it. Incredible. Thanks.
Yeah, look, Joe, you're not wrong to bring up the defense. They have been a massive, massive, massive issue. They've been horrible this year. Horrible. And something I got on Joe Douglas from the get-go, by the way, right away, how he dismantled this defensive line was not a fan of. Reaction when John Franklin Myers was traded, I hated that move. The move to bring in or to move on from Bryce Huff and bring in Hassan Reddick seemed galaxy brain to me. I get the pivot after Bryce Huff walks, and it's not like Huff has done great in Philly. But you knew that it worked in this system, and he was a damn good player for you. Javon Kinlaw, hated that signing from the beginning. He's been horrible. Thought if the Jets are going to run Michael Clemens out there as a serious replacement for JFM, like they are just clearly not seeing things right. He's been horrible, absolutely horrible. The line has been bad. They definitely needed to redo that safety room. I think he's coming off a bad game. DJ did not play well against the Miami Dolphins. And he struggled with penalties in the second half of this season. He's going to get big money. I don't think he's staying with the Jets, so they're going to need to find another corner. Like, all this is true about the defense. They've been really, really bad. It's not just, and it's coming off of Rodgers' probably best game as a Jet, right? He went over 300 yards. He was good in this game. Aaron Rodgers played well in this game. If you have Aaron Rodgers on the roster for next year, you are then ensuring that you're going to have a $60 million dead cap hit in 2026 for Rodgers. And Rodgers this year has played like as a full sample, not just in this game, but as the full course of the year, somewhere between, depending on the week, the 20 to 25th best quarterback in the league. I would say he's probably around the 22nd best quarterback in the NFL this year. At that, with the cost, with the dead money that would come in 26, I don't know if it's worth bringing him back and running it back with him. I don't think Tyrod's production would be crazy off. I'm not saying Tyrod is, as a career player, is better or in the same stratosphere as Aaron Rodgers. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what anyone is saying here. But for the $60 million dead cap hit in 2026, for the extracurriculars that comes with having Aaron Rodgers here, with the kind of offense that he wants to run, does that impact potential GM and head coaching candidates? I think it does. If you have to run back with Aaron Rodgers, I think that impacts who is going to be interested in taking this job. Ultimately, it should come down to the GM and head coach, whoever's hired. They should make that decision. If you're asking me, I don't want the $60 million dead cap hit in 2026 to run it back with the 20-something best quarterback. If he's playing like a top 12 quarterback and the Jets are 9-3 or 10-3 right now instead of being 3-10, then it's a completely different conversation. But unfortunately, that's not where we are. So I think both things could be true at the same time, that the defense is horrible and that I don't know if it is the best idea to run it back with Aaron Rodgers. Peter from Hudson Valley is up next.
Hey, Matt.
What's up, Peter?
Calling from up in the beautiful, cold Hudson Valley on this evening after the Jets lost again to the Dolphins in Miami for the 10th straight season. And speaking of streaks, the 14th straight season without making the playoffs, as they've officially been eliminated. Yay! We've reached that level finally. Tankathon next week versus the Jaguars as they stay in Florida. Let's hope they lose that one too then. Some thoughts on the game. Great to see solid play by Jamie and Sherwood. Allen and Davis played pretty well. Olu played pretty well at left tackle. Mitchell, of course, had to come in for Morgan Moses. Maybe not a great job at right tackle. Unfortunately, missing Sauce in the secondary as Tua just carved him up. Really didn't help. I still don't see why they're playing both Mills and Clark at safety, because it seems like the two of them just don't converse enough back there to get the coverages right.
Fair.
And get burned for, long plays. And no sacks. Hassan Reddick has made zero difference being on the team. And don't really care if he comes back, certainly. I just wonder what other young players will see more time going forward. I mean, JBC finally was up for a game, but Corley was down for this game because Lazard was back. So hopefully some more of the young players will see more playing time going forward, and we'll see what we've got with a lot of those guys. That's basically my question for this week. But this just sucks.
It does.
But here we are, and this is where we've been going for, we've been trending on this way for a bunch of weeks, and Ulrich wasn't going to turn this around. I just want to also shout you out for episode 250 last week. I forgot to mention that in my call, so
Thank you.
great to see that, and waiting, to see you get to 300 and more episodes going forward. Thank you for always taking my call. Also wanted to shout out Henry for shouting me out in last week's
There you go.
edition of Just Jets, and always glad to hear from Constantine, even though I know he's sporadic at this point when he calls in, but it's good to hear from him as well. So let me know your thoughts on what other young players we'll see going forward as we try and lose out and get a high draft pick.
Yay.
Let's tank.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate your call. And I know because you've mentioned him by name a few times and, briefly mentioned that he was inactive, Malachi Corley. And I did a video yesterday talking about Malachi Corley, or that was part of the video that I did. I would like to see more of him this year because you're eliminating just kind of like, you want to see what he is, right? I think it's a mix of the Jets not knowing how to use him, which is bad, but also like he might not be it. And history tells you probably isn't, with the Jets history in the mid rounds at the wide receiver position, with Joe Douglas, before Joe Douglas. I think he's a gadget player, and there's absolutely a role for gadget players in this league. I'd like to see him on special teams more. I'd like to see him get the ball in his hands on an end around or a screen or something. Like, I hate that when they do use him, it's like either an obvious blocking situation or they throw him a go ball. Like, that doesn't make any sense. But I don't know, especially too, and they did themselves no favors by this, but them leaking that he was their number 4 receiver in this draft kind of just shows how, unfortunately, inept they were at scouting on the offensive side of the ball. In this wide receiver class, Malachi Corley was your 4th wide receiver, and you tried to trade up for him at pick 45, and now he's a healthy scratch every week. It's not great. I think we should see more of the young running backs, though. I'll give you that. Because I would pretty much shut Breece Hall down. There's no reason to run him out there in a lost season. I just don't think it's worth it, honestly. Peter, I appreciate you. Let's go to Devin from Nevada up next.
What's up, Matt? Devin from Nevada calling in. I messed up my first call. Let's roll with this. But yeah, so I missed the first minute of this game. And in the meantime, I looked at my fantasy football app, and with 14 minutes and 12 seconds left in the first quarter, Miami was in the red zone.
Yep. 2 plays.
48 seconds into the game, Miami was in the red zone. And I saw that one of the reasons for it was Javon Kinlaw, getting
Personal foul.
Unsportsmanlike. And it's like, man, how long are we gonna let like these guys, these clowns, just like disrupt our whole entire flow? It's like you got 10 dudes on defense trying their ass off, and you got one dude who's just a punk. And it's like, why do we have this unwavering loyalty to guys like Javon Kinlaw, to guys like Michael Clemens, like that have done nothing for us? Xavier Gibson, who did one cool thing 15 months ago, and then now Malachi Corley can't sniff the field. And then another thing I think is super weird about this season is like, okay, so last week Breece Hall, says doubtful and then questionable, and then he's a go. And then it's like, bro, we're 3-9. You guys don't think maybe we want to save Breece Hall's ACL?
Right.
You know what I mean? We have
Exactly.
young rookie running backs, and I'm glad that they got some burn today. I thought that they looked really good. And also our O-line is good. I don't care what nobody says. We have a good O-line, in my opinion. I think that they look pretty good out there. Olu Fashanu is a wall.
He was very good.
He's earning a lot of respect from me. I'm a Bowers guy, not gonna lie. But Fashanu, man, I'm not upset about that. He looks really good. Yeah, it's insane that Malachi Corley can't sniff the field, but Alan Lazard gets activated when we're 3-9, and Xavier Gibson too, man. It's like, it's incredible. Another thing I wanted to talk about, man, is our defense, our cornerbacks especially. I know Sauce was out today, but Michael Carter, man, him too. He looks hurt. Every time I see him, he's
He's been
3
hurt all
yards
year.
behind his man. DJ Reed, probably time to let him go, let him walk in free agency. He's been a really good Jet, but I think his time's up here. And I'm
Agree.
just so excited to have some competency and just some like shit that makes sense for my head coaching staff. It was a good day for fantasy though.
Good.
Fantasy guys did good, and my Jets, we lost, so our job position might be a little bit better. And at this point, man, bring on the tank. Appreciate all that you do, Matt. Much love, brother. Yeah, let me know if you have any fantasy players from today's game that went off. But yeah, just want to call and rant about.
Oh, it cut off at the end. So I am it hurts me as a Jets fan, but as a fantasy owner, I am a proud Josh Allen fantasy owner, as he had a 6 touchdown day, and won me my matchup. I did pretty good in that league. I believe I went 9-5, I believe is the record now going into the playoffs. Won my division. Yep, 9-5. Number 3 seed overall, won my division. So I had a good fantasy in the league that I care about the most, which is obviously the most important. So that was good for me. Devin, no lies from you in this call. The whole 3 minutes. I sorry you got cut off at the end, but why Javon Kinlaw, Michael Clemens, guys like that get as much run as they do is a question I wish I had the answer to. And I think this next coaching staff is going to come in and be like, these are the guys that the Jets loved. Like there's, in my mind, there's no way that a new staff is going to come in here and be like, oh yeah, you know what we're going to do? We're going to retain Javon Kinlaw and Michael Clemens and Xavier Gibson and, whoever else, and put them in these prominent roles. Solomon Thomas, great dude. Gets nominated for Walter Payton Man of the Year every year. Like, good, awesome person. I have the utmost respect for him in the world. Unfortunately, I don't think he's a player that you want playing the snaps that he's getting with the Jets. Oh, it's very, very frustrating. This year has really tested my patience. It's tested, I think, just about every single fan's patience. But the things that I took away from your call, it spot on. They need an adult in here to go, what are we doing? Let's get this thing on track. And let's not have our season derailed by penalties. They were penalized again double-digit times in this game after a week ago where they had 10 penalties in the second half of the game. It's unbelievable. PG is up next.
Hello, Matt O'Leary. PG from Long Island here. A couple things. First of all, thank you so much for taking my call.
Of course.
Once again, if Aaron Rodgers plays like he did today throughout the rest of the season, then, I think he's going to get a shot somewhere. Probably not with the Jets, but who knows when the GM comes in. I think Johnson is done with him, but if he comes in, something, Minnesota, whoever could pick him up. There's not a lot of starting quarterback options out there for the season. My second thing is the defense. Entertaining game today, but once again, after a season full of fourth quarter touchdowns given up by the defense, Miami takes the overtime kickoff and ends up, 70 yards, 8 or 9 plays, just kind of ripping through the Jets defense. So I think when we look to the next coach, we need somebody. I know everyone's saying, no, we need an offensive guy. I think we need a defensive guy. We have so much talent on the defensive side of the ball. And I know that you talked about Rabel as the best choice for a head coach. I'm not arguing. I think he, from what I know of him, no expert, but I think he would be, seems like a good selection. But I think we should also consider Aaron Glenn.
Okay.
First of all, he's an ex-Jet. He's a very good Jet. He evidently said that head coach of the Jets would be his dream job.
Yep.
And he's done a great job in Detroit as the defense coordinator. I think he's a guy who could come in, even if he gave up, had somebody else as defense coordinator, just like Saleh did, but scheme the games up and coach and really get this defense back to the potential that they have. We have a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. There's no doubt about it. Anyway, listen, a little early to be talking about coaching for next year, but then again, that's just kind of where we are here as Jet fans. So I'd love to get your thoughts on Aaron Glenn. I know he's not a experienced head coach, but I think he should get some serious consideration. And once again, as always, go Jets.
Yeah. So I'll say this on the positive side for Aaron Glenn, and I wouldn't hate the hire. There's some things that give me pause about a first-time head coach on the defensive side of the ball, but what I think impresses me the most with him is how well the Lions defense has played despite losing some of its most important pieces, and that next man up mentality that he's been able to accomplish there. I think the defense needs some work. Yes, there's individual talents on it. For instance, Will McDonald, Quinnen Williams, Quincy Williams, Sauce Gardner. Like, you have things to build around on the defense. I think the defensive line as a whole is not very good. That's why I think they should strongly consider taking a defensive lineman with their pick in the first round. They need another edge rusher. I know Jermaine Johnson's coming back, but they're going to need another edge rusher too. They're going to have to replace CJ Mosley. Maybe it's with Jamian Sherwood, but they're going to need another linebacker. They're going to need 2 starting safeties. And it depends on what defense, if they were to hire an offensive coach, let's say, it depends on what defensive coordinator you bring in here too. So I don't think it has to be a defensive coach because of the fall off we've seen from this defense. Although my favorite option is Mike Vrabel, who technically is a defensive guy. I view him as more of like a CEO style of head coach, the closest thing to that the Jets could get their hands on. So that's why he's my preferred route. But I hear what you're saying for sure. Let's get back to it. We got a few more in here. We'll go out to Vic from Florida up next.
Yo, Matty. Vic from Florida. Juan? $10 a year
Oh, he's soda.
to your New York Mets. Got to feel good. It's got to feel good that one owner in your sports regime, in your trifecta of New York sports, actually knows what the heck he's doing. Although I'm a diehard Yankee fan, I don't know how Steinbrenner doesn't fork over the extra $1 million. I don't know if it was on one more year. I think I saw reports on 16 for 7-6. I mean, this is just asinine money. At least you have something to look forward to. Spring training right around the corner. Pitchers and catchers report here in a few months. Life's got to be good. Oh, yeah, and the Jets lost yesterday. I didn't even watch. I'm just calling because I know you're a diehard Mets fan.
I was excited.
And you guys just got Juan Soto and Clay Holmes. I mean, Clay Holmes is non-existent in the playoffs. Juan Soto's an absolute animal. Pretty upset, as I'm a diehard Yankees fan, but I guess, money talks, BS walks. Anyway, I mathematically eliminated.
Again.
Wait till next year. All right, brother. Love what you do. Looking forward to hearing the show.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Didn't play that to gloat about Juan Soto. I am excited about him. And if you are a Jet Yankee fan, which is a little bit more rare, but there are Jet Yankee fans out there. Sorry, that stings. I know that feeling well. But the reason why I thought it was worthwhile to play and talk about is to show this as a perfect example of how much ownership matters. 5 years ago, you had quotes from the Mets ownership talking about that they couldn't sign anyone because they already had a $30 million player at that point in Yoenis Cespedes, who hadn't played in like 3 years, just about at that point. And then there was the next year's offseason, they signed their big free agent tickets were Michael Wacha, who was not a good Met, but then got better after he left. I believe he was in Tampa Bay, and that's where he had his resurgence. Dylan Betances, who never pitched for them. And then like a couple other handful of names out there. Moral of the story is times are very, very different from just a few years ago. And the Mets being in a spot where a player, yes, they had the money, but also on top of the money, them building something up to where a star player wants to come to is a very big deal. And another example of the other team that I care about, I'm a Mets fan. I'm also an Islanders fan. And when their new owners came in, they were able to literally save the franchise from moving away. They built a beautiful new arena that's going to host the All-Star game next year. The team is not very good this year now, and they need to make changes. They need to make a move at GM, that's for certain. But they hired after coming in, they hired a well-respected GM and a well-respected head coach, and they went to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals. That's a few years ago now, but that was a team that was an utter joke of a franchise for the first 24 years of my life, and then have been pretty good over the last 6 years. It could happen, but ownership is so important. I think that's the point that I want to bring up. I know you want to congratulate me or say what's up about Juan Soto, and I'm very excited to watch him play for my team. Ownership, it's a big deal, and it's something that I think is holding the Jets back. Jake from Jersey's up next.
What's up, Matt? Jake from Jersey.
What's up, dude?
Calling in Monday after the loss to whoever we played yesterday. I don't know. The Dolphins. I just feel like going into the fourth quarter, it was like, even though it was neck and neck all game, I just felt like it was prime territory for us to lose. Like we never win games like that. It seems like. Was just calling to see what you thought about. If Rodgers comes back next year, now it's hard to see if you even want that, because 1 week he plays pretty good, the other week he plays not good, so it's tough. But if he comes back, do you want them to have Jordan Travis as the guy that he mentors, or do you want to draft, say, I'm not saying we can, but say Cam Ward or even Penn State kid, Drew? Anybody, would you prefer them sticking with Jordan Travis to sit behind Rodgers, or one of those guys? Or maybe even throw in the wild card and sign Donald to be like a bridge QB or something. I don't know, man.
I don't think you'd
But
ever
yeah,
come
let me know
back.
what you think about the QB position. And also just want to say I think we should re-sign Brandon Echols to a little extension.
I agree.
He's just great. He's a solid fill-in player. Like, great. But, yeah, man, go Jets.
So on Darnold, you're definitely not the first person to bring that up. And I think it would be a cool story if he came back and like wrote the wrong, so to speak. I don't see him like being so quick to come back. I'd be very, very surprised if the Jets made that move and if he agreed to come back. As far as it goes with Jordan Travis, I don't dislike Jordan Travis. I wanted the Jets to take a swing on a quarterback in this last draft. The unfortunate thing is he had a setback with his injury and hasn't played football in over a year now at this point. And he's going to have an uphill battle making it in this league because of that. Now, I'm not saying you completely give up on him. and the new regime just cuts him after this year. Like that's not what I'm saying or advocating for. But I don't think Jordan Travis stops you from drafting a quarterback if there's one you like this year. If he turns into something, then you have a good problem to have, because then maybe you have 2 young quarterbacks that you like and that are good. Well, then you just created an asset for yourself. So it's not a matter of I'm giving up on Jordan Travis or I don't believe in Jordan Travis. I think you need to give yourself another chance. I don't think you could bet on only exclusively Jordan Travis. I like Alar. I think the best out of the options that you just listed off. I don't think you're getting Cam Ward or Shador Sanders. Jalen Milroe has a electric legs, some accuracy concerns. I think Drew Alar would be the quarterback I would take the swing on. Let's close with Dante from Long Island.
Hey, Matt, it's Dante from Long Island. And I have an oddball question. I want to get your opinion on something, and I'll try to be as quick as possible about it. Remember back in 2023, that senator who wanted to move the Jets back to their ancestral home near Citi Field? Well, since that doesn't look like to be a viable option with the soccer stadium going there, how about we move the Jets, if possible? This is a fantasy idea, but we move the Jets to the location of the aqueduct near the A train in, I believe it's near JFK in southern Queens, right? I feel that since the New York Racing Association plans to vacate the premises in 2026, that would be an optimal location. It fits, the stadium the area can fit the stadium, right? Or any modern stadium. I compared it to the size of Lucas Oil Stadium in Indy, and I think would be a great option for, potentially moving the Jets back to Queens. The Bell Parkway is already there. The A train is already there. It might be a little difficult for Long Island fans, but it'd be much better than going out to
Wouldn't have to go over a bridge.
MetLife Stadium. And also there's JFK right there. So I think it would be a great option for the Jets. I just wanted to get your opinion, and always go Jets. Also, you do great work. Keep up the good work, man.
Thank you,
Bye.
man. I appreciate that. I would love it personally because it makes my life significantly easier. I know there are a lot of Jet fans on Long Island that would like them to move back. I would feel for the Jersey fans because they've had it significantly easier since the, late 80s, since they moved out there. I don't think the Jets are going to get their own stadium anytime soon. I think they're completely content sharing the stadium with the Giants and with the Mauras. Again, I don't disagree that my preference would be that they had their own stadium somewhere else. I find it hard to believe that the Jets are going to decide we're going to opt out of this and we're going to build our own. I don't think they take on that responsibility. I think they're good with sharing it. So I don't hate the idea, though. I really don't. It would make it significantly more convenient. I think how you laid it out, too, is a really good description of why that location makes sense, too. Because you have mass transit to that area. It's right by the airport. There's the room for it. It'd be nice. Guys, that'll do it for me on this one. I appreciate you for checking it out. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.